NTUC Secretary General Lim Swee Say, President John De Peva, SM, ministers, business leaders, union leaders, comrades, brothers and sisters. A very happy May Day and happy NTUC 50th anniversary to all of you. The labour movement has been a key partner in Singapore's success. And for more than 50 years, NTUC has taken good care of our workers, representing their interests, upgrading their skills, helping them to secure good jobs and therefore better lives. I commend the NTUC for its achievements and its many contributions, and I look forward to many more contributions and achievements from the NTUC for many years to come. We have had a very good year since the last May Day rally. We've fully shaken off the effects of the global economic crisis. Last year, the economy grew 14.5%. This year, first quarter, is 8.5%, and we are on target to achieve 4 to 6% growth for this year. Because of this growth, we've created many jobs. In the IRs, maybe 20,000 jobs. In the financial sector and services, many banks have moved their global operations to Singapore. Stanchart is one of them. UOB has moved their Southeast Asian operations, centered in Singapore. And in manufacturing too, we have new projects coming in, new investments, new jobs. Rolls-Royce is proceeding with an aerospace project in Seletar Aerospace Park. Agilent Technologies is proceeding with a life sciences project. Lanxess, which was held back during the crisis, is proceeding with a chemicals project, making rubber for tires, high-tech rubber for tires. All these create jobs for Singaporeans. And because we have created all these jobs, so we have pushed our unemployment all the way down from more than 3% during the crisis 2 years ago, now to below 2%. It's actually 1.9%. Which is very low, and in effect, we are at full employment. But even though we are at full employment, we still need to bring more jobs in. We still need to bring more projects in because we want to improve the jobs which are available to Singaporeans. We want Singaporeans to be able to move from one job to a better one as they progress. And more projects are therefore on the way. For example, less than 2 weeks ago, I went to Sembawang at North Shore and I opened a new wafer fab plant. It's called IM Flash. IM because it's Intel and Micron, two of the biggest companies in the business in the world. It's a state-of-the-art wafer fab, $3 billion of investment. Huge amount, creating 1,200 jobs. And Singapore won this investment against very strong global competition because we had the best workforce in the world. We worked as one Singapore team, led by the EDB, and we made ourselves the most compelling location. And we outcompeted other countries where the items of the cost may have been lower, but the whole project put together was not so effective or attractive. So because of such projects, now our workers are enjoying better pay and better prospects. The economic performance has made this possible. Already last year, wages and bonuses have gone up significantly, and this year the NWC has just recommended higher total wage increases for workers for this year. It's the first such NWC recommendation in many years. And the reason it has happened is because employers can see that NTUC plays a constructive role and recognizes workers' sacrifices during hard times and agree that they should be rewarded in good times. So the employers are willing to be generous when times are good because workers are willing to sacrifice when times are tough. And the government is willing to help manage the prosperity when times are good, but see through Singapore when things are tough. And such an outcome, I'm very happy to see it, but I'm also happy to say it's unique to Singapore. No other country can do that. And this shows that our strategy to improve workers' lives has worked. What is the strategy? To promote the growth, to attract high-quality investments. Because the investments come in, you create many new jobs. Therefore, you stimulate demand for Singaporean workers. Therefore, workers are in demand. Their skills are useful, valuable. Therefore, workers can secure higher pay. And that is the best way, the most effective way of getting our workers higher pay. But even when we celebrate good news, I think this would not be the PAP if we did not have at least one word of caution. And the caution is, please don't go overboard. We shouldn't let our built-in wages go up too much and too fast, because if they go up too much and too fast, we may lose competitiveness. If there's a global shock, we may become vulnerable. And even without a global shock, if we push wages up too fast, you can have wages feeding into prices, prices feeding back into wages, and the spiral will lead to inflation, which will be very hard to stamp out. And this will hurt our economy and increase our cost of living even more. So therefore, we have to be very careful. So therefore, I noticed that the NWC, even though it's calling for sharing of more gains with workers, it's also calling for keeping our wages flexible and responsive. Good year this year, move up more generously, but in a flexible way, so if in future we run into another speed bump, you can calibrate it down again. At the same time, we have to continue pursuing productivity improvements, and especially in construction and services where our record on productivity has not been as good as we'd like it to be. One way to make productivity go up is to upgrade our workers, and we're making a major effort to upgrade existing workers. So our National Productivity and Continuing Education Council is focused on this. We're upgrading jobs and worker skills, sector by sector, not just the rank and file workers, but even for the PMETs, the professionals and managers and executives and technical workers, because they too aspire to higher incomes and they too can do with help from the government. We're going to spend $2.5 billion on continuing education and training over the next 5 years. And I think that we must put this money to good use and make a decisive difference so that after 5 years, we can see that things have changed for the better. But besides looking after workers already in the workforce, we must also look after workers for the future. Those who are still studying in our schools, in our polys, ITEs, universities. For example, ITE College West. ITE is one of the major institutions preparing our workers for the future. They opened a new college in Choa Chu Kang 2 weeks ago. I went. A beautiful campus. It's a second campus after ITE College East. And in 2 years' time, we're going to have ITE College Central, which will be in Ang Mo Kio GRC next to Nanyang Polytechnic. But it will be for all students from all over Singapore. They have excellent facilities, excellent programs and staff, and they're producing outstanding technical students. Trained with thinking hands, so when they work, they have a mind directing them to work intelligently. Providing the students with solid grounding and relevant skills to do good jobs. And for the best of them, 1/4 of them, we hope, eventually, will go on to Polytechnic and get higher qualifications. And the ITE students are much sought after by employers. I'm very proud of our ITEs. There's no other country in the world which has anything comparable, but in Singapore, it's unique. And when people come and see it, they say, wow, this looks like a university. And the students act with confidence, like university students. So when I went for the opening ceremony, they not only showed me around their labs and their workshops and their kitchens, where they have a collaboration with a French culinary institute to teach students how to prepare food well and become chefs. They even put on a musical for me. In fact, they had a musical. They took a snippet and performed it for me, West Side Story. They sang, they danced, they had choreographed it themselves, produced it themselves. A most impressive performance. But it shows the commitment we have to give the best education to all our students across the board. So ensuring good jobs, whether for present workers or for future workers, is the first responsibility of any government. And this is what the PAP has delivered and will continue to deliver. And this is what voters must ask any political party seeking your support. How will you create growth and jobs for Singaporeans? Don't just say you will have prosperity. The civil servants will know how to do it. Permsecs know what to do. If the ministers don't know what to do, you can be sure that things will mess up. And with the PAP, we make sure the ministers know what to do, and we make sure we have a successful formula which provides good solutions, good pay, good jobs over the long term. Then we can invest in our people, and then we can keep Singapore as the best place for business and the best place for people to live. But while we grow the economy and while we create jobs, we also have to deal with short-term issues. For example, the cost of living. It's at the top of everybody's minds, has been for some time. It's a problem this year, and especially for food and energy prices, which have gone up sharply. This is caused by external events which is not within our control. Upheavals in the Middle East, which affect the energy prices. Poor harvests in the farming countries, which push up food prices. We can't do anything about it, but we suffer from it. And I think people are understandably worried. And the public is worried all over Asia. And governments are under pressure to take action. So in China, the government has ordered food suppliers to keep prices stable. In India, the Indian government banned the export of onions. Cannot export onions. Why? Because no onions, you cannot cook curry. And for India, that's a very serious matter. So they seriously banned the export of onions, and they are contemplating banning the export of rice. Or Indonesia, where food prices have also gone up, and the president had to ask households to plant their own food. For example, chili prices went up, so households have been asked to plant your own chilies and to eat less rice. So one day a week, please don't eat rice, eat sweet potatoes. I don't think we have enough space to plant even chilies in Singapore. We are in a different situation because we import all our food and energy. So what can we do to tackle our problem? Best long-term response is jobs, growth, increase in real wages, and therefore, even if prices go up, we can pay for it. But we're not waiting for the long term. We are implementing many short-term measures. Firstly, keeping the Singapore dollar strong. Because our economy is strong, because there's confidence in Singapore very high, therefore, we are able to maintain a strong and appreciating Singapore dollar. So the Singapore dollar, compared to the US dollar, has been going up. 1 year ago, $1 US was worth $1.40 Sing. Today, $1 US is worth only $1.22 Sing. So the Sing dollar has gone up 15% against the US dollar in 1 year. And because we have been able to let the Singapore dollar rise, so the purchasing power of your money, of your pay, of your savings has been preserved. And so when you buy imports, whether it's food, whether it's fuel, whether it's merchandise or clothes, your $1 Singapore dollar buys more in terms of US dollars. Had we not done this, had we not been able to do this, and had the exchange rate stayed where it was, 140, I think local prices would have gone up much more and we would have suffered much more inflation. So that's the first big thing which the government is doing, not very visible, but very important, and it's MAS's work and responsibility. The second thing we are doing is to target help in specific areas to groups which need help. We have a Grow and Share package, and we've sent out letters explaining all the items in the Grow and Share package, and also had a flyer in the Straits Times and the Taobao and the Berita Harian to explain what is all this. Because I think many people don't quite understand what is involved. But in fact, we have individual items to meet specific problems which households face directly. We have YouSave to help you with your utilities bills. We have preschool subsidies for those families with small children. We have MediSave top-ups for older citizens. And it can come all together, if you add up the different pieces, to quite a lot of money, up to $4,000 a household, more than the rise in the cost of living for most families. I think Singaporeans would already have received some of the benefits, and especially over the last few days, all of you should have received the growth dividends, and other benefits will be on the way during the course of this year. But may I again have a word of caution? Please don't spend everything immediately. Keep some back to help meet the higher costs which we will encounter during this year. I know, despite the Grow and Share package, Singaporeans still worry about the cost of living. And the government is very conscious of this, and we will continue to focus on this. And the ministers and I are personally very focused on this also, because we are concerned that Singaporeans are worried, are anxious, and we want to be sure that whatever we can do, we will do. So we are tracking carefully what's happening elsewhere, which can impact our prices, and we are finding ways to buffer ourselves and to manage our domestic costs of food, of energy, but also of housing, which is another cost item which Singaporeans are worried about. They fear HDB prices rising, and the low income, we have extra help. The sandwich group, not so low income, they feel themselves in a predicament too, worried that if they don't get their BTO flat soon, their incomes may rise, and they may rise beyond $8,000, and then they may no longer be eligible for HDB flats. But we understand this, we are watching this, we are studying what we can do about this. It takes some time to overcome the problems, but these are things which we can overcome. I can say with confidence that in Singapore, we will get help to you to cope with the cost of living so that you can afford it in Singapore. And I can say with conviction that we can make sure that every Singaporean can get a flat which he can afford and without too long a wait from the HDB. The details, Mabautan knows how to explain, but the principle, I think I should explain to you so you know it's not just Mabautan working hard, but the whole government is there backing him up and making sure that these Singaporean aspirations will be achieved. Beyond helping with the cost of living, we are making special efforts to help the low-income workers. And one big thing we are doing is workfare to top up the wages, especially for the older workers. And this year, on top of workfare, we've got the workfare special bonus, which is another 50% increase in the payout for workers this year, and then we have extra for next year and the year after as well. What does it mean for a worker who's earning, say, $1,000 a month? Low wage, not very low, but low wage. If he's young, 35 plus to mid-40s, that means he's earning $1,000. Every month he can get from the government $130 more. If he's older, he gets more. If he's 60 years and above, then he's earning $1,000, or he or she will get $350 more from the government every month. We'll pay it quarterly, but in effect it's $350 every month, which means 1/3 extra top-up on his pay beyond what his employer is paying him. And who's paying this? The government, fully funded, so there's no burden on employers, no discouraging of employers from hiring people. In fact, encouragement to workers to work to get this pay, and encourage to employers as well, because the government, we are covering the pay and including part of the CPF. And this is something which even the self-employed can get, which if you have minimum wage, the self-employed have no minimum wage because there's nobody paying them. But of course, we also need to upgrade skills and productivity, which is the best long-term solution. And for this, NTUC's E2I plays a key role. E2I, and especially the new Devonaya campus, has already trained 16,000 rank-and-file workers and 7,000 professionals and management people last year. So big numbers have gone in, many have passed through, many have found jobs, been placed, also helped by E2I. And very often, E2I must provide full solutions. So you must implement the new systems with employers, you must train workers to operate the new systems, and then you find the workers and fit them in so that it all works nicely. For example, there's a hotel, Ibis, in Novena. Hotels are always short of workers. So they worked with E2I on projects to improve productivity. 5 projects, so they capture F&B orders electronically. They synchronize the F&B orders with the room accounts, and therefore they reduce errors and waiting time for guests. They did automatic payroll and staff rostering. They cross-train workers to work in different departments. And the result, company saves money, workers, local staff get 13% wage increase. And that is the way we will work to help lower wage workers. Similarly, we will help older workers to stay on, to get jobs, and stay in jobs. We've already passed our re-employment legislation, which we promised. So now, under the re-employment law, most workers can work on beyond 62 until 65 at least. If not in the same job, the employer has to help him to find an alternative job. And to encourage employers to do this year we've got a special employment credit, a scheme in the budget for Singaporean workers aged 55 and above, an extra incentive to workers to look after to workers to work and to employers to hire them. And we're encouraging companies to adapt jobs so that they can use equipment which older workers are suited to because they're not so strong, not so flexible, tire easily. So, for example, Home Fix, which is a DIY shop, price tagging, items one by one is expensive, demanding for older staff. So they tapped on advantage funding, developed electronic price tagging, and introduced a Best Gold Collar Award to recognize outstanding mature employees. And they've got good results nationwide. And we have got good results nationwide too. So, older workers, more are getting employed. When the downturn came, we worried for them because we feared that they would be the first to be let go, that they would be vulnerable. But with our special efforts during the downturn, they stayed employed. And after the upturn, in fact, more older workers found new jobs. So that now about 6 in 10 of them are employed, and the unionized sector is taking the lead. So already we've got good results on re-employment, and more than 10,000 workers have been re-employed. So I think that we are doing the right thing. We can deal with these and other issues as long as we've got our system right. And the system is the tripartite partnership. It's why we came out so rapidly from the crisis. It's how the unions have contributed and made all the difference to Singapore workers. Our future depends on strong unions, forward-looking, dynamic, who will continue to improve workers' lives. And that depends on a strong NTUC, which will strengthen itself, renew itself, the Central Committee, the member unions, train new leaders who can build on what the labour leaders have achieved, who will work with employers and at the government, who will rally workers to tackle the challenges of the future. NTUC has got 2 key initiatives. The SecGen mentioned them briefly just now. One, to build up a 3rd-generation membership base, 1 million new workers to join the NTUC. Secondly, to develop future generations of leaders. through the 3F framework: flow in, flow up, and flow on, and therefore have self-renewal. I discussed this with NTUC. How can we give this initiative a special push forward? And the SecGen suggested to me, why not we start an NTUC development fund, NTUC 50 development fund, to support these two programs, the 3G and the 3F. And the government will help. So NTUC aims to raise $50 million in total. The government will be 3-to-1 matching, so the NTUC only has to provide $12.5 million. 3 times that, $37.5 million from the government. We get $50 million. Invest in the NTUC. Keep it young, keep it strong, keep it relevant and effective. That is an investment in our future. This is also a symbol of the government's full support for the union movement and for Singapore workers. We have a significant number of MPs from the labour movement, and they make a vital contribution, looking after workers' interests in Parliament, giving workers a strong voice in Cabinet, national policies, making sure that what the government does is pro-worker and pro-Singapore. The current slate of PAP candidates includes a good number of new NTUC candidates. Mr. Ong Yi Kang, Mr. Ang Kin Kee, both of them from E2I. And we have 4 more, 2 from IR, Mr. Patrick Tay and Zainal Sapari. And 2 from the young NTUC, Desmond Chu and Alex Yam. Can I ask them all 6 to stand and take a bow? They are all good men. They will serve you well. They will make good MPs and office holders. They are fighting elections. Some have tough fights. Give them your full support so that they all win. And produce more people like them so that by the next election I can bring in more, men as well as women. So, once more, I'd like to congratulate NTUC on your 50th birthday. You will continue to have an important role for at least another 50 years in Singapore. Nobody knows what the world will be like. It will be a different world, full of challenges, but also opportunities. It will be a bright future for us, provided we work hard together. So let's cooperate to strive for better jobs, better pay, and better lives for our workers and for all the people of Singapore. Thank you very much. Happy May Day.